Barrier Break was basically formulated on three principles. The first was we said we would employ people with disabilities. So 40% of our team comprises of people with disabilities. So we hire people who are deaf and hard of hearing, visually impaired, physically challenged, people with autism, neurodivergent, etc. The second thing that we said was we will help companies make their technology accessible. Their websites, their mobile apps, there's so much technology out in the world which is inaccessible, and very few people are helping them to make that accessible. And the third that we said was we wouldn't be a charity. We wanted to be a sustainable business model. We wanted to walk away from that mindset that disability is entrenched with. And I think, that is really what we started to do. Flip to today, we are in, to 2025, we are about 270 employees. We service a global marketplace. Our largest customer base is the US. So you can, I actually smile and sit back and say, we from India are developing and delivering things for the US markets. And it's people with disabilities from India also adding to that.
Part of the workforce.
Yeah. So when I started, the thought was always that I wanted to do for India. But there was no buy-in from the Indian tech industry. There was no need. They'd always say, if somebody sues us, we'll think about accessibility then. Right? So it was about survival. So survival made us go to the US markets. And I think it was one of our best decisions because we've grown as an organization. And because we've grown, today when India truly needs us to help make the technology in India accessible, we're there. We're here to be able to take on that challenge and support organizations to do it. Asking that question is the first thing that you have to do. Do you take care of the needs of my child or my person, whoever that person is? When you are going and procuring something, right? So I think every one of us today has a microwave in our house, right? When you go and buy that microwave, asking the question, if your child can't read it, will it talk to them? Will it give them inputs? If we start asking these questions, people will start to realize, right, what is required. So I think that's the first thing that we need to do systemically. The second thing that we need to do systemically is, accept that people with disabilities have to use mainstream technology. The people aren't necessarily going to go out and make a separate banking app for somebody. Okay? So don't ask for things separated. Ask to make the existing solutions inclusive, right? And adapt them for the needs of people with disabilities. That is a very important thing for everybody to understand. The third is, don't wait for your child or person to become old. Accessibility is a need that if you teach them technology at a younger age, right, they will learn to grow with it. Today, if you give a kid a phone, he learns it faster than you and I, right? As adults, we take longer to.
Buddy Up Network, as it is called, is a social platform for people with disabilities. It is for people of all disabilities as well as those experiencing loneliness and isolation. So, we do have included people with cancer, people who are with HIV, because those are also conditions which cause isolation, and it is for people of all ages. So, it could be for younger children, it could be for adults, it could be for people who are 80 years old, it could be for any age. It is also for their caregivers because, again, like Monisha said, the caregivers also experience a lot of isolation, and of course, we have taken into consideration safety and security. So, it is not for people who are under the age of 18. If there are caregivers, if they are under the age of 18, their caregivers make a profile and sign on. Otherwise, if you are also, if you're over the age of 18, if the person is over the age of 18 and the caregiver still feels that they are vulnerable, then we want a responsible adult to make the account and operate it on their behalf. But otherwise, anybody across India, living anywhere, anybody with a disability can access this app and look for the app throws up. It's very simple. You make a profile, fill in some information, app basis on an algorithm throws up suggestions, and then you can also search for friends and chat with them on the app. So also, I think in addition to safety, what we really paid a lot of attention to was the accessibility. And so we had somebody who is tests apps for especially the visually impaired community. So he came in, he tested the app. Every time we do an upgrade, he tests that upgrade to make sure that it has screen readers. Some people from the visually impaired community wrote in, or people with low vision, they wrote in and said, can you please enable dark mode so that it's easier for us to be able to read the app and to be able to read all the features. So we enabled that. Then again, we had lots of requests coming in saying, we find typing a little hard, and now there are voice notes. So can you please enable the voice note feature? So we've introduced the voice note feature in the chat. So you can just use a voice note to be able to send a message. So all those features are things which we've used to be able to make sure that the app is accessible. The person who's done our testing is a very, very smart young man who's visually impaired, and he has declared that the app is 90% accessible.
एक्चुअली कोई हमें बाउंड्रीज नहीं बनानी है. डिसेबिलिटी है, इट कैन, हमारे यहाँ पे सब तरह के लोग हैं. इट कैन बी अ ब्लाइंड पर्सन ऑल्सो, इट कैन बी ऑटिस्टिक. डिसेबिलिटी इज डिसेबिलिटी. द पर्सन इज एट डिसएडवांटेज एंड उनको हेल्प चाहिए. ADHD भी आते हैं हमारे पास, डिसलेक्सिया विच इज़ अ वेरी ओनली लर्निंग डिसेबिलिटी. सो डिसेबिलिटीज़ में हर तरह के लोग हमारे पास आ रहे हैं एंड वी आर सपोर्टिंग एवरीबडी. सोशल स्ट्रेटा आप देखेंगे तो चौल से लेके और बिल्कुल हाई एंड एरिया वाले लोग सब एक ही जगह हम लोग मिलते हैं. हमारे बच्चे साथ में खेलते हैं और मदर्स भी फ्रेंड्स बन गए हैं. किसी को कुछ एडवाइस लेनी होती है, सपोर्ट चाहिए तो एक दूसरे को सपोर्ट भी करते हैं. और सिमिलरली एज ग्रुप, कभी कभी हम सोचते हैं मेरे बच्चे के लिए फिट नहीं बैठेगा, मेरा बच्चा तो 40 साल का हो गया, अभी ये कहाँ जाके आर्ट करेगा. बट ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. हम सब लोग मिलजुल के सेम कर सकते हैं, भले ही वो 4 साल का बच्चा है या 40 के ऊपर 50 का भी कोई है. सब हमारे ग्रुप में मिलजुल के अच्छे से खेलते हैं, इन्वॉल्व होते हैं और खूब एंजॉय करते हैं. सो जहाँ हम ये एक इनहिबिशन रखते हैं कि ये नहीं चलेगा, अभी ये बच्चे बहुत ऐसी बैकग्राउंड से है, हमारा फैमिली ऐसा है, वो सब हमें निकाल के फेंकना है. वी आर ऑल ह्यूमंस एंड वी ऑल नीड कम्युनिटी.
I see. So in this case, having holistic, inclusive education, usually, and the inclusive part is the tricky thing, right? Is incredibly important. So just ignoring your things like ASD, just for the time being, right? Children are going to be different no matter what. There are some children who will simply learn better by watching something, some children who learn better by hearing it, some children who learn better by acting it out or imagining it in their head. This is going to be the case. And well, that is how it is. So an inclusive classroom is not one that will simply teach through a single medium. You won't have your standard teacher writing on the board, copy, and then as a child, children who are like struggling to learn visually, right, and understand it visually are still trying to figure it out. The teacher's like starting to erase, and you're going through the panic of, oh my god, the teacher's erasing, will I get it done in time? And then you don't, and then you're just like, okay, I'm not going to get it done, I give up. And that's when your brain just shuts off for the rest of the class. Your learning turns off, as compared to a teacher that's making sure that you have a visual medium, there is a proper spoken and discuss, like there's a discussion or a spoken medium. So there you have the auditory. If any part of it can also be shown as a physical action, like, okay, today we're learning about this Rajput king who has done this thing, and like this, and you have a thing that King Rashus or whatever, had this fighting style where he would raise his sword high and sneeze on it, just like to make it more visually appealing, but also because you're having all of this physical action, right? And you allow children to also like, now if you were one of these kings, what way would you want to fight? And everyone do one quick action. Show me how you'd want to fight. Now this is bringing in all of that engagement. This is getting everyone more excited. The children who were initially like, what is going on with the board are learning, oh, this is like, we're learning history, we're learning about fighting in history. That's cool, right? All of that is being brought in, and this is helping every child. This is helping not just the ones who have trouble with certain things, like with ASD, some children may have difficulty with, say, audio. right? They might find it too sensitive. So they may want to block it out. If you have a classroom that teaches you in various different things, right? You can then allow audio levels to be a little lower. You can allow audio levels to be a little bit less pronounced to make it easier for them as well. But everybody is still learning and is enjoying that learning. That is a key part of having an inclusive classroom. You make it so that everybody that is there can enjoy themselves, can learn and have fun.
So, Chitra, NCPEDP is a 28-year-old organization. We are India's only organization which is focused on advocacy and inclusion of rights of persons with disability. If you look at the last 28 years or 2 decades of disability movement in India, NCPEDP has led this discourse. Whether you talk of 2 legislations that we have had, whether you talk of inclusive, accessible elections, whether you talk of inclusion of disability into census data, the national education policy, the national building code, the hiring of persons with disability in the private sector, accessibility in aviation industry, railways, Ministry of Urban Affairs, and so on. So I mean, we have been constantly is what NCPEDP has been doing. NCPEDP runs a network of organizations of persons with disability. The National Disability Network is about 26 years old now, and we have partners across the country from all kinds of disability, all cross disability organizations are part of this network. So we run 2 awards, one to recognize persons and organizations who are promoting universal design and accessibility for persons with disability. That is called the Universal Design Award. And the second award we hold is the NCPEDP Helen Keller Award, so which recognizes efforts made by organizations and people promoting employment for people with disability. So this year is a 25th year. So and the focus of NCPEDP are education, employment, accessibility, law, and policies, communication, and youth. So this is what we focus on. So anything that we do. So we run a fellowship for youth with disability. We have about 25 fellows across the country between the age of 18 to 25 who are working on various thematic areas. For example, climate change, employment, education. So maybe somebody in Madhya Pradesh, some small district working on education for girl child with disability or education for children with disability in UP. Employment for people with disability in Jalao district in UP, for example. There are fellows who are working on health. There are fellows who are working on multiple issues which is affecting people with disability on an everyday basis, and they are able to build evidence-based narrative so that disabled people's life at all stages are documented, and the gatekeeping and the discrimination they face on an everyday basis are brought forth at all level. And it does not only need to be talked about sitting in Delhi, Bombay, or Calcutta, or Bangalore, or Chennai, but from the hinterland of the country, from the people with disability themselves.